joining us. My name's Kim Randall. I work with the Ivey Business School's Executive MBA program, leading admissions and recruitment to the program. And I'm so pleased to be joined today by four exceptional HR leaders who not only am I grateful to know through Ivey, but I'm especially grateful to call my friends. We are actually all classmates currently on the Executive MBA journey together. And for those of you who are early into the executive MBA research phase and who maybe don't have too much familiarity with what the EMBA, as I'll call it, is all about, ultimately, it is a 15-month while you work program designed for mid to senior level leaders who are really looking to accelerate their career. And I'm excited that you have the chance today to hear the perspective from our four panelists to share the impact of an executive MBA in the HR world. I think having spoken to each of you individually and collectively, I think it sounds like resoundingly there's been tremendous impact already, and we're only in term 2, so watch out, future world. But really excited to hear your perspectives and and introduce everyone to you. Before I go into introductions, if you don't mind, I would like to begin with a land acknowledgement, acknowledging that Western is located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabeg, Haudenosaunee, Lenapehoik, and Chinookan nations, on lands connected with the London Township and Sombra Treaties of 1796 and the Dishwith-Lunspoon Covenant Wampum. With this, I respect the longstanding relationships that Indigenous nations have to this land, as they are the original caretakers. We acknowledge historical and ongoing injustices that Indigenous people endure in Canada and accept responsibility as a public institution to contribute towards revealing and correcting miseducation, as well as renewing respectful relationships with Indigenous communities through our teaching, research, and community service. And I'll just share, as a follow-up to that, one of the real differentiators at Ivey is that we are a case-based school. And in addition to being a case-based school where we're solving problems through real business issues, we're also the second top producer of business cases globally. And so that puts Ivey in a pretty influential position to tell business stories. And it has been a growing priority within Ivey Publishing and across the larger institution to start sharing more cases with Indigenous protagonists, bringing to light Indigenous stories, Indigenous business issues, and really extending knowledge and conversation around Indigenous communities and business leaders through business education. So as we talk about the Ivey experience, I would encourage you to keep that in mind, that really as your perspective grows, it's not in one area. It will be, my experience to date has been that my mind feels open every single day by the cases that I read. And I wanted you to know that that's a priority of the school. So without further ado, I would love to introduce each of you to our exceptional panelists. And I think as a starting point, we'll start with Sarah. So Sarah, can we kick it off to you, please? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Kim. I'm so happy to be here today and share my thoughts on this program because it's been so amazing. So I'm Sarah Cromwell. I'm the Vice President of People Excellence with Able Pest Control. So Able Pest Control is part of the Able group of companies, and we have about 700 employees across North America. I'm located in Burlington with my husband and our 2 terribly trained Shar-Pei. So
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Leah, you're next for me, so maybe I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Kim. This is really an exciting opportunity. And I'm really excited to be here. As Kim mentioned, my name is Leah Carr, and I am located in Toronto, where I live with my husband and my beautiful daughter, Mia, and soon to be mom in the next couple months. And I'm currently the director of HR at Humber College, the student union Ignite at Humber College and Guelph Humber University, supporting over 30,000 students there.
Thanks, Leah. Over to you, Arlette.
Thank you, Kim, and nice to see you, ladies. My name is Arlette Edmonds. I am the head of HR, so the Chief HR Officer for AGF Investments and AGF Capital Partners based downtown Toronto. We are an asset manager just north of 50 billion. So we do all sorts of investments, both in the private and public space. We have employees globally, about 650 to be exact. I am thrilled to be here today and answer questions about this awesome program and share some fun stories with Anjana, Leah, and Sarah. Over to you, Anjana.
Good afternoon. My name is Anjana Moitraori, and I'm the Vice President and Head of HR at Roots. We have a few thousand employees across Canada, and we are a 50-year-old beloved Canadian company selling some pretty cozy sweats, as well as some other types of clothing product and leather accessories. Really excited to be here alongside my other colleagues, and looking forward to today's conversation.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And as you can tell, we have a lot of expertise on this panel in different industries, but bringing that exceptional HR lens. So let's jump into it. Anjana, let's stick with you for a moment. Can you tell us a little bit about how you decided it was the right time in your career and in your personal life to pursue the executive MBA? And I guess as a follow-up to that, how did you decide Ivey was the right fit for you?
Yeah. So I had actually had doing an MBA on my personal development plan for about 18 years. And it never felt like the right time. There was all sorts of things that, were getting in the way of that, whether it was my fear about joining a program, prioritizing getting career experience, having kids, experiencing, deaths in the family or moves. All sorts of things came up alongside financial planning. And eventually, I think this was probably about 2 years ago, I really started to ask myself about, is there such a thing as there being this perfectly right time? So do you wait for the right time, or do you make it the right time? And I decided that I needed to make it the right time. And so started to, put into place the questions that I had for myself around, financial planning and around planning as a family, and talking to my employer about it. And here we are today.
I love that. You can wait for the right time or you can make it the right time, because time passes whether you're ready or not. And I love that you jumped in. Lucky us to get to learn alongside you and from you. Leah, over to you. How did you decide it was the right time?
Yeah, a lot of what Anjana just shared really resonated with me. I think as women, we wear so many hats. Some of us are moms, we're executives, we're entrepreneurs, and we'll always put something ahead of us, or we always prioritize other things in our life instead of prioritizing ourselves. So for me, similar to what Anjana said, there's really never a right time, but for me, it was making it a priority for me because I knew this is something that I've always wanted to do. And I really saw it as an opportunity for me to take my career to the next level, and seeing what an MBA can offer, and really gaining that broader perspective in leadership and in business acumen was really something that I felt like this is the time for me to do it. And I think what really stood out for me when it came to the Ivey MBA specifically is kind of what you alluded to earlier, Kim, regarding the unique case-based learning approach that we had, where we got to engage in real cases that present complex issues. And we're now, expected to solve these real business problems, and having the opportunity to learn among 50 plus other amazing professionals and really have that opportunity to really tap into that diverse pool, diverse learning has really been something that has been incredible so far. And I'm excited that I've chosen Ivey to do this along.
Thanks, Leah. Sarah, what about you?
So I thought I perfectly planned the timing of when I was going to apply. I thought, and I'll probably touch on that more later because I know we have some questions that might talk on that. So I just promoted somebody on my team. They're doing great. And I had some personal projects wrapped up and I was like, this is the moment. This is when I'm going to apply and everything will be great. I'm midpoint in my career. So I'm in my 40s. And I was looking back on the last 22 years of being in HR, and I said, how can I prepare myself for those next 22, 23 years? And what is that going to look like? What kind of skill sets am I going to need in order to enhance myself and to push the business forward? And, I lost my father back in 2019, and I thought one of the most amazing things he ever did in his career. He didn't have a university education. I don't have a university education besides Ivey. I started a bachelor's and I never finished it. And he went back to school in his 40s and he did an MBA. And, that was always when I was a child, I was so proud of him for doing it. He was juggling being an executive and he was juggling the schoolwork. And I remember seeing him sit there at the dining room table at nighttime and writing out his notes and everything on schoolwork. And that just motivated me so much. And it was almost like me going back to school was almost like a way to honor my father as well and accomplish a great thing that he did too. So I chose Ivey too because of that, the GMAT exception and the fact that you're looking at my experience, because I have a very vast experience in HR and I've been very successful in my roles, and I've done a lot of volunteering and speaking and all of that fun stuff. So, that was something that you took into consideration on my workplace experience. So that with the case study method, which I'm just absolutely loving, was what made me choose Ivey, and I couldn't be happier with my choice.
That's amazing, Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that I'm so glad that our approach is so holistic, because you are a shining star and we're also lucky to have you in the classroom.
Thank you.
Arlette, over to you, last but not least.
Sarah, I did not know that about you. I also do not have an undergrad degree. I took the college route. And what triggered my sort of initial interest was having a university education that I tell my children, two of whom are at Western, is table stakes and much different than when I graduated many years ago from high school. I think it was a very different landscape. It's just a competitive playing field out there. So me telling my children that university is table stakes felt kind of funny. And being as competitive as I am, I thought I need to get in there before my oldest graduates in the spring. So here we are, about to graduate the same time. That's not lost on her, by the way. I have loved my experience. I have been in HR for a very long time. People have asked me, why at my age and stage am I pursuing an MBA? And for me, it's the personal side that I just described now, but also from a personal, what Leah said so beautifully about putting yourself first. I'm a mom to 3 children. I have raised them from, they're age 16 to 21 now. And I have always done things for other people first. And by putting myself first and making myself a priority for these super intense 18 months, I have not only sort of the respect, I hope, of my peers that I am working so hard alongside and learning so much from. I actually feel like I'm making my kids and my family incredibly proud. My mom also, Sarah, at a very late age and stage, pursued a university degree. So it makes me think that anything is possible if you just put your mind to it. I will say this out loud and I will scream it from the rooftops until the day I die. You have to do hard things, because hard things are what makes us learn. And setting these stretch goals, like doing an executive MBA while having a job, while raising a family, is hard. But I will tell you, while there are small trade-offs, it is one of the best decisions I have ever made.
Thanks, Arlette. Also, we should have done a dry run, because I wasn't emotionally prepared for all of this. Like the emotion and like the realness coming out of your responses. I know it in a way because I'm living it too. Like the program is completely changing my life, and how lucky am I to be on this journey with each of you. But to hear the impact that it, like, in the rationalization and the investment in yourself, like I know you're making it. We were in class Thursday through Sunday together. Arlette, we were on a team meeting last night. Arlette and I are on a term 2 learning team together. But it's really powerful, and there's a reason I asked you to be on this panel, because you're exceptional, and you're just reinforcing it 10 times over. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the nature of this panel is really HR leadership. And I think you were one of the first people that said to me, like, HR plays a really strategic role within the organization. And this is only helping my workplace and just the industry to have this well-rounded business perspective. I put some words in your mouth, but that was my takeaway from that conversation. Maybe we'll stick with you for this to start with this next question. What's your perspective on the value as an HR leader of doing this program, and what has it brought to you professionally to date that has had a positive impact at your organization?
Yeah, that's an excellent question that I actually think a lot about because we're knee deep in the program. And we actually had just this weekend a social event, and I probably haven't laughed like that in so long. So I'm a realist. I'm a hard worker. I feel like I have a good sense of humor, although I don't suggest that anybody tells anybody that you have a sense of humor, because most people who are funny don't actually talk about how funny they are. I actually think I'm kind of funny. And we laughed because I don't expect to come into my workplace and a portfolio manager is going to ask me to do some sort of regression analysis on whether or not we need to make an investment in X, Y, and Z. That is not why I'm getting my MBA. I have, however, developed skills in Excel, which at my age and stage, you would say, well, what the heck do you need it for? I actually use it. And so while I am not, again, going to be asked to provide an assessment or run a report or do any research on why we should or shouldn't be investing in X, Y, or Z, the fact that I can engage in the conversation and now I'm invited into the conversation, I could be at the table, but if you're not actually engaging in a conversation, then there's no point in you being at the table. So I would say even just from that standpoint alone, the investment that I've made in that discretionary sort of thinking that I've had to force myself to do because I'm in class and I'm getting graded and I want to get the most out of this program has actually forced me to ask myself questions when I'm at the table that I would have never asked, 2 years ago, as an example. So I feel like the payback in that alone, I'm in the conversation where, again, I wouldn't have been 18 months ago.
That's awesome to hear. Anjana, what about you? What would you say the importance for HR to be in this program and the impact that it's had on you at Root so far?
So I see HR as a key enabler of the business, and as well as, a strategic partner, as well as in service to the business. So with those three things in mind, I really felt that the MBA was going to help provide me a more holistic perspective of key functional areas in the business to not only make me a better partner, but help me be able to, as Arlette had mentioned, understand what is being discussed in different functional areas of the organization. I think oftentimes too, HR problems necessitate cross-functional problem solving. And so having a bit of a common language, relatability, but also like comprehension. So what does this problem even mean? What are the implications of this problem? And how do I work most effectively with my cross-functional partners to solve it together? So that's been a key part for me. And I'll add that it's not only the subject matters that we are covering, it's the fact that we're getting a chance to sit in a classroom with 57 other classmates that are in finance, in operations, in analytics, and tackling the learning together. That exposure within itself, you don't always get afforded at work. And the learning that comes from that is just it's invaluable.
Thanks so much. I completely agree. Sarah, what about you? From an HR perspective, and then personally, what have you been able to bring to Able now that maybe you weren't able to before you started the program?
Yeah, I feel like I want to just say ditto to a lot of what Anjana and Arlette said, because it's bang on. We do ride-alongs, all of us, the management team are always riding along and making sure that our feet are on the ground alongside our employees so that we we know what the vibe is like out there and how everyone's doing. But I think, you know, I'm not doing that with our finance team and our AR team and all the different quality assurance teams. So I'm not getting that sort of knowledge growth in me in those areas. So I think the program very much complements it. And I have a funny story that I'm sure Freddie would be so impressed of when I'm about to say this. So we were in a meeting, and we were talking about trying to figure out if we can figure out if something can happen. And they're like, okay, these are the metrics we're going to use. And I was like, oh my golly, guys, like we can run a linear regression. I want to run this for us. Like I want to see the probability that something like an account might cancel. I can do this for you. They were trying to figure out how we might figure it out. So I'm so proud to say that I am running linear regressions to solve business problems in the company, despite just being in HR too. You know, we didn't have an expertise on that sort of thing in the group that was talking about this. And it was somewhere where I was able to jump in, and I've been able to train somebody on it now too. So Freddie, thank you. Thank you, Freddie, for giving those tools. And then just personally, you know, as an HR individual, I think a lot of the time we need to manage ourselves just politically in the workplace too, and not be vulnerable and say like very openly to people, you know, I'd like to learn this area a little bit more, because people look at you a lot of the time as the person that steers the ship, and you should have most of the answers. So to be vulnerable, to enter these classrooms and learn alongside people on the learning teams in the classroom is just been so wonderful, to ask those questions that I might be shy to ask to a coworker, but asking them very openly. I remember one of my teammates, I said like, hey, I'd like to really increase my negotiation skills. Can we just maybe sit off to the side one time at lunch and you tell me what works for you? And like, maybe we can practice a little bit. And it's those little side learnings too that take place. You see somebody might be strong in something. Like I've reached out to another classmate saying like, hey, this one financial principle I'm not super strong on, but I saw that you were really good there. Would you spend some time with me and just work through it? You know, personally, those conversations have been so wonderful, and that support system has been so strong. So that's what I'm loving as an HR, but also as a person going through the program.
That's so nice to hear. And I can't believe that you're training, like I can believe it, but you're training people on linear regression models. Like what an awesome flex. Like that's the program in a nutshell. It's not all linear regression models. But for those of you who maybe are wondering who's Freddie, Professor Frederick Odegaard teaches competing with analytics in term 1. I would say overwhelmingly, it's the course that people are most nervous about joining the program. And I presume, I'm making an assumption, but speaking to a group of HR leaders, that's not a space that you're spending a lot of time in. And so I think of my own social science background, like I was terrified, but our faculty are exceptional, make the concepts digestible and accessible. And it sounds like, Sarah, you might be getting his job next. So that's Freddie in a nutshell. Leah, over to you. Talk to us a little bit about your perspective from the benefits of the program in HR, and also like what have you been able to bring now to Ignite that you've found really valuable?
Sure. I'm trying to think here, what else can I add to what's already been said? But I think we've seen where the role of HR has really changed, has really transformed. There's an expectation from us now to be those strategic business leaders, advisors to the rest of the business. So I think what this program has really equipped me with, and has been transformative from even a professional and a personal standpoint, is I feel like I have new tools in my toolkit to show up and really make meaningful change and impact at Ignite. Currently, we're going through a 3-year strategic plan, and I feel like now I'm like, okay, now I'm no longer just talking the HR talk, but I can confidently now have conversations with my CEO regarding strategy and what do we see that looking like. That is one of the courses we're taking right now. But even a finance director, really looking at balance sheet and income statement. Like I can read balance sheets and income statements, things that, okay, I knew they existed, I've seen them, but to really be able to understand each of those lines and to give feedback and to ask questions as to what exactly is being done is truly incredible. I must say, I'm still working on my linear regression and analytic skills. That is not my forte, and I don't think it's going to be. That's why we have the data analytics over there. But I think it's that whole global holistic view, like Anjana mentioned, that really allows you to have a really greater impact in the organization. And that's what's even more excited about this program.
Thanks, Leah. Let's stick with you, if it's okay, and we'll shift gears a bit to just talk about making it all happen. I mentioned that the four plus me, five of us were just together for the weekend in downtown Toronto. The program is structured so that you have an in-person touch base once per month. Predominantly, we are in Toronto Thursday through Sunday at a monthly cadence. And so that's what we were just experiencing over the past weekend. And then there are 3 different instances when we travel to London, Ontario, and that's really the kickoff of each term for what we call a residence week. Leah, you can kick us off with this. You're juggling a demanding career, you have family commitments at home, and the workload in itself is robust. Like, no one is going to sit here and sugarcoat it. It's a lot of work. How are you managing it and making it work, and any tricks of the trade?
Tricks of the trade, I have to say, it truly takes a village. So anyone who is looking to do this, you have to get the support of your family, even your extended, your coworkers. Like, you're not going to be able to do all at the level you were doing before you got into this program. This program is very demanding. You have to put in the work, but you can make it happen. I won't say have more hours in the day to make it happen, but you really choose and prioritize how you spend that time. And for me and my husband, what really works is, like, we have a calendar because my daughter's also having activities. So we need to know who needs to be where at what given time. And there's also things that's really important to me that I don't want to miss out. Even though I am in this program, like, family time is really important to me. Being present when my daughter has her swimming or gymnastic or music, that's all important. So I also want to be present when she's there. So for us, it's really holding a tight ship, a tight schedule where we know who's where when we need to be there. And, my extended family, my mom, and my coworkers have been amazing. And again, the learning teams, some of my classmates just mentioned the learning teams. That's also something that even within the program, you can't do this alone. So really forming those relationships and leaning in on the experts within your learning teams, within your group, and even beyond that, extend beyond that. And the one thing I can appreciate about this group is the vulnerability that I'm seeing, that we can share, like, hey guys, I'm having a hard time. And knowing that is going to be there to be like, here's your case, don't worry about it, or here, I'll pick up for you today. And I think that is what's making this a much smoother ride than I will have thought of. But it's a lot, but you can make it happen.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Leah. Angela, what about you? What would you say in terms of managing and making it all work? What is your experience so far?
Yeah, I think that so I'll echo a lot of what Leah said, and just say plainly, it is difficult. Like, there's no way around that, but it's such a how do I explain it? It's a labor of love. Like, you're so excited about about being there, and why I say love, it's because it's the first time that in a long time I've put deposits in my own bank like this. And it feels incredible to be able to invest that time and space. One of the key takeaways that I have had was around the idea, and we kind of fight with this all the time, which is the fact that we feel we can be 100% everywhere in our life. We can excel at 100, 110% and everywhere in our life. And when you enter a commitment like this, it's being, okay with the fact that that's not possible. You won't be able to show up at 100% in every element of your life. And where are your non-negotiables and where are your negotiables? So as an example, having two kids, they're 11 and 14. I know that, my non-negotiables are usually between the hours of maybe 9 and 10 o'clock or 9:30 and 10:30, because that's the one time I'm going to catch them and be able to talk to them before they go to bed and just connect and cuddle and chat about the day. The gym is another non-negotiable for me. It's where it's my outlet for mental health and well-being. It keeps me, feeling less nervous or anxious about things. So those are examples. I'm also super social. And so for me, I've got to find at least every couple of weeks a minute to go, have a cocktail with friends or, go for a walk or enjoy a great meal. And for other classmates, I know that those aren't the things that are important to them. And that's okay. I think it's figuring out what are your negotiables, what are your non-negotiables, and then really giving yourself the space to not be at 100% in the spaces of your life where you might have once been before.
That's really powerful, and I think a great reality check with the program. I remember as our term one was ending, one of the women on my learning team, we had joined the call early, our teammates hadn't joined yet, and we were kind of reflecting because we were nearing the end of the term, and we had this moment. I said, I can't believe how much I've grown and how much I've learned, but I pictured the experience slightly different. I thought, this is my schedule and I'll follow it perfectly because it's what I want. And then life happens and there's so many moving pieces at all times that you become nimble, you stick with your non-negotiables. But I did have to really soften in a couple areas of being like, that I don't have capacity for that right now. And that's okay. You can lean on others. You don't need to be everything to everyone all the time. And I remember her name's Amanda, and she said, do you think that's the secret? Do you think that's what the program's all about? It was almost like, is it like a code within EMBA that we're unlocking? You just really start to learn what's important to you, what you can ask for support with, because the program attracts high achievers. We don't want to give away anything to anyone. We want to do our stuff and be good at it and great at it. And now you all of a sudden have to acknowledge maybe I can't be right now. And anyways, I just remember that was a really powerful moment for me. And I feel like you just spoke to some of that so well. Sarah, I'd love you to chime in terms of any tips and tricks, or how you're managing it. What's been your kind of outlook about the time commitment?
Yeah.
What would you like to share?
I'd love to. This was actually before I applied, this is the thing I Googled the most. I would Google EMBA hour commitments, Reddit. I would look at everything because I didn't know how it would fit into life exactly. And like I said to you, I tried to plan this so that I was perfectly inserting it into a time in my life that I thought I could handle the workload. So when I started the program, I had a member of my family, my grandmother, passed away, and all of a sudden I got the responsibility. I'm the power of attorney, and I was caregiver for my grandfather who had dementia. So all of a sudden, not only was I a full-time employee somewhere, I was doing an EMBA program, but I also had an elderly man an hour outside of my city with dementia that my grandmother was taking care of. No LTC contacts or anything like that. And when Leah talked about those learning teams, I can't speak strongly enough to how much they are such a strong component of this program and make you so successful. So I remember that Leah and I were in a group together for the first term. And I remember there was one time I was doing a lot of travel with work. I was juggling everything with my grandfather. And I remember Leah pulling me aside one time and saying, "Are you okay? How can we help you?" And that entire team, I was on a plane almost every other day at that time. The entire team really stepped up. They would help with cases if I needed to. But what everybody is saying is that you will find the time. You definitely find the time. And there is Friday nights. I will not look at school. I will not touch school. Friday nights are the time where my husband and I eat junk food and watch crummy shows on Netflix. And it's like my relaxing moment for the week. And there is no way that school ever insert itself into that time, my work or anything. I fully dedicated to that time with my husband. So, that's the time I've carved out, but you just carve out moments throughout your life. And, it was something that I was really stressed out about, but I found the rhythm as the program's gone on. I remember Dave, one of the professors, saying, April face comes in. So about 2 months into the program, you've kind of got your routine and you've figured it out. So for me, You know, I'm an early bird. I like to be able to do some schoolwork between 6 and 8 a.m. in the morning before I start my workday. It just feels good to get some good wins off my to-do list. And I go into the workday really energized because of that. And then after that too, after work, I like to do about 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And then the rest of the time I spend time with my family. And Sundays are generally a day I thought I was going to want to take off. But now Sundays are one of my favorite days to do schoolwork. And it's amazing, you know, my husband and I had that conversation. I think it's really important to involve your family in the discussion as you're going through this. And I love that Ivey has the spouse day that they can go to. So they kind of walk through the program as well, because my husband really, you know, took a lot back from that. And he is incredible. He's an amazing man. He does all the cooking in the house now. He does all the cleaning too, because he just wants me to be successful in this program. And, you know, it's such a wonderful thing. When he travels for business, you know, I do get a lot of Uber Eats. So, and he's got no problems with that. So we're all good. So it's, you know, juggling and balancing all these things. I do have to say no to some things, but it's just temporary. I'm investing the time with those people that I really want to invest the time with and do the things that I really want to do, and have to put off some of those, maybe just little coffee chats that can be put off for now. What about you, Arlette?
So funny. Everything's a trade-off. I mean, there's only so many days in the week and so many hours in the day. And I feel like, so I have this saying, you know, you only have so much, you know, so many calories in a day or so much time in a day. And I actually heard another way of saying it on the weekend, which is that seat is taken. So basically, like, don't ask me questions that just aren't important right now to me. So that seat is taken. So you want to feed your kid. The example that I saw was this woman said, honey, Katie wants pizza for breakfast. And she turns around to her husband and says, that seat is taken. Like, go figure it out yourself. And I think it's a little bit of that. And while I don't necessarily say to my husband, that seat is taken, he does understand that there's, you know, there are moments in the week and moments in the month and peaks and valleys. And like, you're on another call, because I also was on a call with Sarah last night, separately from our team call. But it's you just do it. And once I committed, and I did commit pretty quickly because I tend to make these decisions quickly. I jumped on the Ivey bandwagon because I fell in love with the case base and everything else that we've already talked about. I was in it. And like most things, I think about it when it's facing me square in the face. And so as we approached kind of the beginning and term one and first residence week, you start to think about all the anxieties that are now starting to surface. Like, how am I actually going to do it? And then you just do it and you just make it work. And best laid plans, as Sarah has so eloquently said, it's not always going to work to your benefit. Like the same way you can't pick family, you also can't pick your learning team. And so some of the biggest growth, I would say, has come from learning to flex, you know, and I'll share a very quick story. My son was 16 years old, having an issue with one of his buddies the other day about somebody left a jacket somewhere and who knows what. I said to him, Lucas, you're actually going to meet people like this kid for the rest of your life. I see them in my MBA. I see them in the workplace. I see them here. I see them, you know, in this extension of my life. You are going to have to learn part of that growth that is going to be inside of you and that you will leverage for the rest of your life is learning how to work with these people. You don't need best friends in every aspect of your life, but you do need to have good relationships. You do need to leverage the strengths that people are going to have and some of the weaknesses that they don't necessarily have. And that's where you can step in and help. The takeaway for me is learning, even at my stage in my career and in my life, how to work with people who don't necessarily think like me. And I need them to make me successful, and hopefully they need me to help make them successful. So learning how to do that, again, when you're in such a later stage in your life has been a big, a big opportunity for me, but something that I've kind of stepped into because I have no choice.
Thanks, Arlette. Yeah, I think, as you know, if I love the expression, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. and listening to each of your contributions to that question about making it work. It is a challenge, but I think the evolution that is each of us and each of you are experiencing is tremendous. And I also think it's worth noting, I think it didn't get mentioned, but because it seems so obvious to us, but the sacrifices we're making, you mentioned like maybe you can't go, you have to postpone a coffee chat until there's a bit of a lull in the schedule, and there's not as much time for XYZ. I loved what you said, Anjana. You said about putting like deposits in your own bank account. The relationships that we've gained in the program they have completely exceeded every expectation I could have ever had. And I can tell you my expectations were already through the roof. And so as much as you maybe have to hit pause in one area momentarily, you are gaining so much. And I say that as someone who has the luxury of learning from each of you, and knowing that whether you like it or not, you're never getting rid of me, because I'm going to be your friend for life. And I hope to continue learning from you as well. Like you've both, or not both, all four of you have impacted me so much, not only professionally, but personally. And that's magnified across the cohort. And so I just encourage folks to keep that in mind. I think often we think about what we're giving up over the 15 months of the program. And I think the real secret is like what you gain. So with that, I'd love to just open the floor to last minutes of advice. And then I'd love to open it up to some Q&A. But if you were to give advice to fellow HR professionals, what would you say? What would be your words of wisdom? Anjana, do you want to kick us off?
Yes. I was just pulling the question up on my phone too. Okay, so the biggest advice I'd have for HR professionals, I think that, for me, I went through HR not taking the business school route. And so I'd done my Bachelor of Arts and had done an executive certificate at UBC before coming here. So I was coming from a place of feeling quite insecure around finance and analytics, and that really held me back. My advice would be to not let your fears get in the way. Everyone is walking into that class, generally, being top performers in their respective space and accepting a whole ton of vulnerability when they walk in that room. And so celebrate the courage that you're taking to get up there and do it. I also think the other piece of advice that I would have is it's incredible the capacity that you can find in yourself. And so to just go in really believing in that capacity, whether it's getting up at 5 a.m. and getting a couple hours. I think, Sarah, you mentioned doing that between 6 and 8. I did the same thing. I put in a video and a quick case reading before I got into work. Whether it is your capacity to ask for help or your capacity to, in my case, use Excel in a way that I've never been able to do before. It really is wonderfully surprising what you have the capacity for.
Thank you. That's amazing. Leah, what about you? Oh, you're on mute. It had to happen once.
I was doing so good. And then the advice I will give is, first I want to say this is really an incredible opportunity, and to approach it with an open mind and willingness to challenge yourself. I know coming into this program, I'm still trying to find my balance around speaking up in class, because, there's opportunity. There's a lot around contribution points, and that's just bringing you out of that comfort zone to challenge yourself to speak up and give a perspective that perhaps you may otherwise may not want to share. But I want to say, come into it with an opportunity, an openness to challenge yourself. You're going to be in a room with 55 other professionals, and like the saying goes, your net worth is your network is your net worth. So really lean into that. Really it's not just look at the theoretical side of what this offers, but think about, what you're going to gain from being around 55. In our case, we have 58 professionals that has a different perspective, and the opportunities that may bring, and the different insights that you may get from that. But if there's anyone on the call that is specifically women of color, Black women, what I want to say is this program is a powerful platform to really elevate yourself and break down those systematic barriers, for you to contribute to greater diversity at the C-suite level. So this is an opportunity to be the change you want to see. So I want to, and to inspire others to do the same. So, bet on yourself is what I want to say. It's going to pay off. It's something that you're not going to regret. And it's going to truly transform your life, day in, day out.
Thank you, Leah. Arlette, what would your advice be? And then
Uh,
Sarah, I'll let you take it away from there.
Yeah, I'll pass it to you really quickly. I would just say do hard things. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that, and I love all the programs that HRPA offers, but it's always felt, when I'm going through them, I'm looking down a tunnel, and this has really opened up my whole holistic viewing when I'm dealing with it. And Leah, I love the point that you just made as well, as being the change we want to see in the world. Human resources is generally a female-dominated career, a woman-dominated career, and I love to see, where our class is majority women. Kim, is it? This is the first time majority women?
First time ever in Ivey's executive MBA history. We are 59% women. And I think there's only 2 schools worldwide, in North America that can say that, and under 10 globally. So we're a special bunch.
It's so amazing, the sisterhood that exists between us too. The girl gang that we now have is the strongest thing. We're always in contact with each other. And, just from a personal standpoint, I've never had female relationships this deep, this quick, and so supportive. We are the biggest cheerleaders out there for each other, personally and in our careers. And there's no better feeling for that. So I really, really encourage people to do it. And I don't know if I can say more than that, but that has really been the greatest thing for me. So I'm so thankful for the program.
Amazing. Thank you. And to speak to the support piece, I see a couple of our classmates are actually on this call. So we see you. And thanks for being so supportive, because at the end of the day, your network matters. And we're so lucky to have such a remarkable network of leaders. And Angela, I was thinking when you said you were nervous about finance and analytics coming in, which I think is a common concern from anyone that doesn't work in that space. And I think of how you sit between Arima and Claire. So we have a finance whiz and an analytics pro, and everyone is adding so much value. Like, they're offering support there, and your contributions in class around leadership. And we talked recently this past weekend about executive compensation, and the way that the 4 of you were able to chime in and share insights, like you belong there, and that. But for those of you listening in who are like, where is HR's place? I hope you aren't questioning that anymore. But I know, as a non-HR professional, the significant impact your contributions have had on my learning. And I know that that's had a ripple effect across the cohort. So with that, I would love to open it up to questions. We can unmute, or you're welcome to jot a question in the chat.
I just wanna thank you all so much for sharing, just really from your heart. And it's so nice to hear that some of your mothers too, and are juggling so many things and still making it work. It's really encouraging to hear that, and feel that maybe I can do it too. So I was also curious about what you think you will do after. Do you think that you'll be staying in the HR space, or do you think that EMBA kind of opens your eyes to different things, and you might even look at other sectors?
So maybe I'll jump in there. Oh, sorry, Anjana, do you want to go?
Go for it, Sarah. I'll jump in after.
Deal. Sounds good. So I love everything HR, and this has just allowed me to support my organization so much more. So I foresee myself, staying within the people realm of the business, which is great because my company is a service-based company, and that's what we do. We are a people company essentially. So however I can serve my firm, that's what I want to do. I know that there's many people that are going through the program and they're looking at either staying with their firm and just growing there or looking elsewhere as well. So really, there's different pathways for everybody. Anjana?
Thanks, Sarah. Jim, I'm really glad. Thank you for sharing your feedback. I'm glad it resonated that way. I can tell you that before I talk to you about aspirations next, when I was thinking about doing the MBA, we had a family meeting and I chatted with my kids. And I remember telling them that the same way mommy and daddy want to support all the things you want to do, I'm really asking you to support what I want to do right now. And they admittedly, I tell you that they said, I don't know if I really like the idea of you being so busy that we can't go here and we can't go there. And we talked about all of it. And now I share stuff with them. I talk to them about my classmates. They meet my friends on video chat, and I talk to them about what I'm learning in school, and I can see how proud they are of me. And I also equally check in when I'm being too unavailable, and I course correct right away. So I just wanted to share that in case it is helpful. So in terms of aspirations, I had always kind of dreamed about a couple things. I've dreamed about being a CHRO. I've dreamed about being a CEO. I've dreamed about going into non-for-profit and being executive director or even starting my own business. And I can affirm that as a result of the EMBA experience, I now believe I could do all of those things. So they're not just, untouchable dreams. They're now things that are possible realities. And that's because of the experience we're getting at Ivey.
That's really powerful. Thanks, Anjana. Arlette and Leah, did you want to chime in?
Sure. I think, thank you so much, Jen, for your question. Similar to what Anjana said, I think, I've been in HR now for over 15 years, and I felt that, HR was sort of just a thing that I can do. But now this has opened up a whole new horizon for me where, this is only going to make me a better leader of an organization one day. And my ultimate goal is to one day be a CEO and potentially also start my own entrepreneurial journey and start an organization. My heart is dear to non-for-profit. And I see this, now I'm having all these things in my toolkit that's going to equip me to get there a little sooner than I thought. So I will say this has really opened up doors and my mindset as to really the sky is truly the limit here.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just close it out by saying I don't know, to be honest. I think that what I have now at the end of this journey next year are going to be options that I maybe didn't have a year ago or 18 months ago come that time. And I'll have many more relationships. And I'm more one of those people that doesn't plan very well. And so for me, I'm going to go with I'll just roll with it. And see what the future brings. I feel like no matter who you meet on this journey and all other journeys, they're all additive to your life. You have choices to make. And ultimately, I'll be better equipped at the end of this journey than I was at the beginning. And we shall see where that road takes us. So I'll leave it out there.
Thanks, Arlette. I want to share for any of you that are feeling really inspired, and I think I can speak for each of you that I'm sure you're all happy to connect on LinkedIn. You would have had Leah and Anjana and Arlette and Sarah's names and even their faces in the promotion of this event. So definitely encourage you to reach out on LinkedIn to continue the conversation. And then, of course, as it relates to the Executive MBA, I'm here to help continue that conversation as well. And so just to give you an idea in terms of Potential next steps. One opportunity I'd like to offer to each of you is to join us for a class visit. We love having visitors, and it may be the case that if you come before June, you'll be sitting in class with the 5 of us, which could be a lot of fun. And so classes take place in downtown Toronto. We're in the Exchange Tower, and I would be very happy to send you a link with some dates and times for you to join us. The other thing I'll mention is that we're currently accepting applications for our February start date, and the application deadline is approaching on November 25th. So if you have questions about the application process and what that entails, I'll be your key contact and would love to chat with you about that. As was kind of mentioned in a bit of an exchange with Sarah and I at the beginning, it's a very holistic admission approach. And at Ivey, I can say this as the person who leads admissions and recruitment for the program, we care about who you are and we care about what you're going to bring to the learning of your peers. And that you can't always tell just from looking at a resume. So I'd love to have a chance to connect with each of you. Without further ado, I just want to thank our exceptional panelists for the incredible discussion today and insights. Leah, Arlette, Anjana, and Sarah, thank you so much for carving time out of arguably one of the busiest weeks of your adult life. We are in term 2, which is the most robust in terms of workload. We just came off an MBA weekend and we're gearing up to head back to class in a couple weeks. So your time today is so appreciated. And I deeply just appreciate each of you for being you. So thank you for sharing your amazingness with our guests today. And I hope everyone has a terrific afternoon.